Union Jack Oil plc is a UK-focused onshore hydrocarbon production, development and exploration company. It's released its full-year results and annual report, and they are both things of beauty. I'm delighted to be joined by Executive Chairman David Bramhill. So, David, I'm sure your nomads are now lying down in a darkened room after they checked and double-checked this update. Maiden profit, dividends as and when the company deems prudent, no need to return to capital markets for a while, and an asset that may continue to deliver for another decade. So, David, is this update when all the stars came into an alignment?
Good morning, Sarah, and everybody. No, I don't think so at all. We've got some very, very good assets. It's taken us years to actually bring into production because of various issues, as you know. But Wrestle has turned out to be what looked like just an ordinary oil well into something quite special. And I think it will be. I say you said everything. All the stars of the line. I think they've only just started aligning, to be honest with you, and that will be reflected. It hasn't yet. But I think the market's like really what people are looking for, and obviously we are as well, is an increase in share price. However, the markets aren't brilliant. I've done a review of all the companies on AIM, and actually, although the market isn't good, we haven't done that badly, believe it or not, compared to other companies. Because this is what investors want. They want to see the share price increase. And we're well aware of all of that. All I can say is let the markets get a little bit better and we'll begin to see those returns. However, the results are excellent.
I was going to say,
yeah.
So you have no control over the share price, but you do have control over what the company's doing at the moment. So let's talk about Wrestle. It is currently the second most productive conventional producing onshore oil field in the UK. You believe that it will deliver significant results, significant revenues for at least the next decade and more. So what's the evidence for this?
Well, the evidence is the actual flow rates we're getting now. But there's practically no difference between when we turned the well on after the profit squeeze in August 2021 to now. It's still pumping away. The only thing stopping us doing a lot more production is the fact that we're producing carbon and releasing gas, and that's got a cap on it. And until we can find somebody to buy that gas from us or do other things with it, that's the way it's going to be. However, there are at least 3 different options we have in the future. Remember, we're not the operator. All we can do is to ask and cajole and push, make recommendations. So, but at the end of the day, it's the operator that does all the hard lifting. And as far as I'm concerned, they're doing a good job. These things take a lot of time, Sarah. It takes ages to get things through, and that's not sometimes a bad thing, because in the end it does work. It works out well. Look at Wrestle. But no, everything will fall into place, and we've done our own internal reserve reports. ERCE are doing a report now to hopefully upgrade the resource and the reserves. That's hopefully coming out at the end of June. That's the plan. Always difficult to put timetables on things, as you know, because there might be a delay here, delay there. It's very, very difficult in the oil. I guess not just the oil industry, but any industry. You can put a finger up in the air and say, right, it looks like we're going to be promised this on a certain date, but sometimes I'm not suggesting there are going to be any delays or anything, but this is sort of the industry all over. Things take longer than expected, and usually it's the operator that takes it in the net for all of this. But they're doing a good job. Egden are the operator of Wrestle, and we chip in with our feelings about it. And as far as we're concerned, we've got a real decent well, one of the best, as the flow rates show you.
So, talking about chipping in, I'm going to move on to West Newton. You know, how confident are you that this future development will be worth the expense that you've chipped in, and at times the aggravation?
Lots of aggravation there. We've made two very, very good discoveries, and the fact is the two wells didn't flow. We know now why they didn't flow, and we've got the money for our share of drilling. I understand that the casing has been bought forward for the drilling, and our two partners, we're ready to roll on that well. As soon as we have the okay, we pay our money, and that money's set aside from our nice cash bar that we have, ready to drill West Newton. And the technical boys, the girls, say it's going to work. We'll soon see when we drill.
Okay, so drilling is expensive. So just looking at today's report, I'm looking at the cash. Cash balance looks pretty healthy, but there seems to be some misunderstanding about how much cash you actually really have.
I know what you're saying. I've already read it. Don't worry, I do read the boards, everybody. It says we've got cash and near-term receivables of 9,750,000. The auditors asked that we put that in as a cash figure. What shareholders are looking at is a figure which of 10.5 million, which included liquid investments. And if anyone would care to go back to previous announcements, it says cash, near-term receivables, and liquid investments stand at XYZ. So a few people are saying, well, where's the missing million gone? It's not missing, it's still there. It's just the fact we've quoted our cash balances and receivables. So it's not an issue. Go back and read what it says and what we have said in the past.
Okay, let's stick with cash, David, because how confident are you that you won't need to return to the capital markets for financial support for at least another 12 months?
100%. 100%. We will not be going to the market for at least another 12 months. Exactly as it says on the tin in that report, there's no way that we will have a placing for the next 12 months.
How about for the next 24?
I'd like to think that there wouldn't be for 2 years. If everything follows suit, then there won't be. But all I can honestly put my hand on my heart with is at least the next 12 months. 2 years is a long, long way down the road. What if we were to make an acquisition or do something, or a joint venture somewhere else in the world? I'm not saying I'm not saying we are or planning, but every option is open. But as far as we're concerned, I would probably be quite happy to say the next 18 months. 2 years is too long down the road. A lot of evolution can happen then.
Yeah, David, and also the price of energy can change as well, because I'm just wondering how many of the promises made in today's statement are actually dependent on the price of energy, which you don't dictate or determine.
We've enough money in our kitty now to do everything we want to do, i.e., and if you were to say, well, look, Dave, I'm not basically saying that this is going to happen in the next 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, whatever, but we've got Kennington, where a well is planned. We have the money to do that. We've got West Newton, where a well is planned, and according to the operator, during H2, we have the money to do that. We've got Biscafort, where we're waiting for the inspectorate to come back and give either a positive or negative answer. What it's going to be, I don't know. It's been 8 months since we last were up in Beverley waiting for the inspector to hold the meeting, which he held, and we're still waiting. And people say, well, David, when are we going to get a result? I don't know, really don't know. Hopefully soon. But I can't give it any guidance whatsoever. And I know that Egdon have been chasing the inspectorate, but there's only so far you can go. We're waiting for a result on that one. So assuming that it's a positive, we have the money to drill Biscafort. And upgrades on Wrestle, we also have the money to do that. and new drilling there, and working capital. And every day we've money coming in from Wrestle. And we see Wrestle as being a producer, as I said, it's not a promise, anything can happen, but there's no reason why that well shouldn't produce for 20 years, let alone 10. I certainly won't be around when that well finishes. Like, it's very similar to Crosby Warren, the well that Europa have got. That was, I think that's been going for about 30 years. It's only meant to last 2 years. 30 years later, still chugging out. And we've only just touched Wrestle at the moment. I know we have, because the original prognosis from ERCE was a lot less than we believe. And we're not seeing any water. This is free flowing. There's no underground pumps. There's no nodding donkey on it. This is producing under its own steam with no water. Brilliant, fabulous. You couldn't wish for more on a well.
So you talk about guidance there. You have given guidance about your dividend policy. You're not promising an aggressive dividend policy, but from what I've extrapolated from the report, it's as and when the company deems financially prudent.
It would be very, very wrong of me to say we have a dividend policy where we are going to pay. It's a little bit like the question you've been asking me about have we got enough money to drill. That is prerogative. Number one, that we have the money to do everything that the operators throw at us. No surprises. We've got the money. We're ready to write that check for our drilling share. We've also money coming in. Energy prices are pretty good. You would have died for $75 oil 18 months ago. It was down to 7. It was in negative territory. So we're doing well. The actual operating cost for Wrestle is about $9 a barrel, which is nothing. It might even be lower in some cases. So if you were to say to me, well, David, what would you like to do? I'd like to say we'll pay an interim year-end dividend, special dividend, whatever. But it's all down to what cash we have. If you look at our cash position now, hypothetically speaking, we're in a position to pay a dividend next year as well. But I can't sit down and promise. I'm not going to do that on something I'd like to think that I can deliver, but we can't promise anything as far as dividends. As it says, we will pay. We'll take a look at our cash balances every 3 months or so. Say, right, we can afford to give a small dividend or a better dividend here or there. So that's our basically dividend policy. It would be very rash of us to say we're going to do this, we're going to do that, when we really haven't got the money. At the moment, everything looks good. We're sitting very good. These results in this market, and the market is sideways. It really is in not a brilliant position for a number of reasons, a host of reasons. So we have a dividend policy, and that policy, I suppose, is yes, we'd like to continue paying, but sometimes if oil dropped down to $20 again, which would be a shock, you'd have to rethink. You'd rethink of quite a few things.
So today's statement is actually retrospective, isn't it? Because it's looking at 2000.
I was gonna say that everything you've read is history. It's what happens in going forward, and I see a great future.
And I'm sure that most of the long-term and the short-term shareholders share that view. But I'm just thinking, so it's retrospective, but there was something that happened more recently in the last couple of weeks, and it was all to do with royalties. Again, for those who are not familiar with what you did, and again, there are misunderstandings. Some people are aggrieved and think that you were selling your royalties on the cheap.
I know I've taken awful grief. I got grief when I bought them. I got grief when I sold them. We sold them to a major. If anyone's ever dealt with a major, they will know that they are the boss. They're the headmaster. You can't say we're not doing this. We have made an offer we couldn't refuse. Did we make money? If you go back to our announcement, it says we made an above average return. Okay. Well, some people say, well, what's above average? The bank rate's 4%, maybe you got 5%. All I can say is that we did very, very well as next year's annual report, which the figures have to be reported, but we signed a declaration that there's a timescale on when we can release what we, and I assure you, we made a very, very handsome amount of money out of that transaction. It's a deal well worth doing, and that's all I can say.
I like the word handsome, David. In fact, everything that you've discussed today has got that handsome ring to it, but that's all we've got time for this time. I'm glad that the future is brilliant. No doubt when you release your next statement, we'll be discussing, and I hope we'll be discussing how brilliant it continues to be. David Bramhill, Executive Chairman of Union Jack Oil, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.